gearing up for their big game tomorrow night on Saturday, Cavs versus Spurs. Someone asked LeBron James who he thought the best coach in NBA history was, and he said, I've said this time and time again. It's Pop. It's Gregg Popovich. And obviously, this is a heated debate because there's been some great coaches in NBA history, but LeBron talked about Pop's growth mindset, that when he came into the league, it was old school. It was dump it into the big guy and then bring it back out, the in and out. And then it was pick and roll. And then it was the three-point shot. And through all of it, Pop has made those adjustments beautifully and continued to win. Obviously, for some people, when you look at Pop's 5 championships compared to, say, when compared to Phil Jackson's, they don't compare. Phil's won 11 championships. How could 5 ever compare with 11? But for me, when you look at the 11 ships, he's only been NBA Coach of the Year once, and he's coached some of the greatest players in the game that were going to be some of the greatest players in the game no matter who their coach was. You give anyone MJ and Scotty, you give anyone Shaq and Kobe, they're going to win. That's not to take anything away from Mr. Triangle, but I think he was pretty lucky with the guys he wound up coaching. And I think Pop's better than Phil Jackson. Now, Red Auerbach, take your cigars out, because some would say this was the original, the OG. 9 titles. How do you compete? They lorded over everything in the NBA. But the competitive balance of the league at that point, for me, especially when you add Bill Russell, who was a coach on the floor, I still think narrowly Pop is a better coach than Red Auerbach. And I know some old-timers out there are going to think that that's blasphemy for me to say. Others would say Pat Riley. With the tremendous teams, Showtime Lakers he had in the 80s, a 3-time NBA Coach of the Year himself, just like Pop, where Jackson, Red Auerbach, only 1-time Coach of the Year. But again, when you have that guy, you're always going to do pretty damn good. And Pat Riley, I think, is up there on the Mount Rushmore of great coaches of all time, but not as good as Pop. For me, it's the consistency, the 50-win seasons. When they win 50 this year, it'll be 18 straight years that the San Antonio Spurs will win 50 games. Just a mind-blowing mark of consistency that really does prove he's the best of all time. 20 straight playoff appearances. That'll happen this year as well without Duncan. And although Duncan, a lot of people, and in my mind, is the greatest power forward of all time, I think he helped Timmy become that. And how about the other guys? The 57th overall pick in the year he was drafted, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker. That's all part of R.C. Buford and Gregg Popovich's growth mentality, to think outside the box, progressive nature of the way he's handled the San Antonio Spurs since taking the reins. When you think outside the box, you increase your scouting globally, not just going to high school games and college games in this country, but all over the map. That's when you find the diamonds in the rough, like a Tony Parker, who's had a tremendous career. And I don't think he would have had a tremendous career in every single NBA situation. But with Pop, linked with Manu, linked with the big fundamental and the other guys that they've had, you look inside the numbers, especially the consistency, it's hard for me to not agree with King James. Now, of course, LeBron is not going to say Phil Jackson because of the whole posse comments as of late. You're never going to convince LeBron that Phil is the best coach of all time. But man, when you talk about 5 championships, 5 out of 6 in the finals, winning the Western Conference 6 times and getting to the Western Conference finals 9 times in his career, the numbers are just mind-boggling. For me, I agree with LeBron. The GOAT, the best coach in NBA history, 1 syllable, Pop.